Breaking tonight, President Trump takes to Twitter in the wake of the FISA memo bombshell. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. The president late this evening quoting the Wall Street Journal on Twitter in response to the FISA memo release, saying the memo lays out how the FBI failed to inform the FISA court that the Clinton campaign funded the dossier. The FBI became a tool of anti-Trump political actors, unacceptable in a democracy. The president goes on to say the FBI wasn't straight with Congress and hid most of these facts from investigators. We have quite a show on deck for you tonight. Ann Coulter, David Bossie, Governor Mike Huckabee, and Congressman Ron DeSantis all standing by live. Plus, I'll be talking to a spokesperson for the President of the United States in just a moment. I have one very important question for him. But first, my opening statement. He was right from the beginning. They were spying on him. They were wiretapping. They were listening in on Trump Tower. They were so desperate that he not be elected that they misled the most secret court of the United States in order to spy on an opposing political campaign in order to undermine a presidential election. Members of the highest echelon in our FBI and Department of Justice conspired to prevent an outsider from breaking the establishment stranglehold on the American people. They needed a reason to spy, so they made one up. They used a dossier of lies paid for by a major political party, the Democrat National Committee, and a presidential candidate, Hillary Rodham Clinton, to dupe that court. They swore to facts they knew were lies to get what they wanted in order to surveil a candidate they could not imagine being president. A cabal of arrogant, condescending employees of our government whose salaries we pay thought that we didn't count. They so wanted Hillary to become president that they violated all the rules and engaged in a charade so we would think there was a real investigation on the emails. They met on the tarmac. They gave people who didn't qualify immunity from prosecution without getting the required incriminating evidence. The FBI then changed lanes with the DOJ and publicly announced a decision in violation of all ethics rules. And they changed legal definitions to satisfy their political goal. They thought she'd be elected and no one would ever know. But she wasn't. So they plotted an insurance policy to bring him down anyway. You know, I've often talked about the Clintons coming on the scene from Arkansas in their bell-bottoms as pigs at the trough. But they really outdid themselves this time, using a foundation in name only to spread the wealth while infecting our departments of justice and the FBI. All the while, their comrades weaponized our tools of intelligence. This is what they do in third world countries, not in America. It's time for holier-than-thou Jim Comey and his band of conspirators from McCabe and Strzok on down to have Lady Justice take off her blindfold and see them for what they are. The arrogance of those seeking a change in a presidential election is unheard of in the United States. And let me be clear. This is not an attack on the FBI or the Department of Justice, because these agencies are bigger than a couple of tainted inhabitants. This is not about one party versus another. It's not even about spying on an American citizen. It's about something even more. It's about an attempt to change the course of American history using the most powerful agencies in the United States government. How dare you? And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, hashtag Judge Jeanine. Joining me now with reaction to my opening statement and much more, Congressman Ron DeSantis, who's been at the forefront of getting this stuff released from the beginning. Good evening, Congressman.
Good evening, Judge.
I guess it was everything you said it was going to be that everyone said it wasn't going to be. And the question now is, what happens next?
I think there's going to be a number of things. Chairman Nunes has said publicly this is going to be a phase 2 where you're going to have another memo go through the same process, dealing with other agencies, including the State Department and their role in this. And I think that could potentially be explosive. I also think that the memo has raised problems for some of the individuals that you mentioned, including former FBI Director Jim Comey. I mean, he was not candid with the Intelligence Committee in terms of telling them the genesis of the dossier. So I think they're going to bring him in, put him under oath, but I think he's exposed himself for potentially making false statements. Of course, he leaked FBI documents after he got fired. Some of those documents may have had classified information, so he may have exposure there as well. And then one of the things I think really needs to be drilled down on, Judge, a lot of people are focusing on the FISA. Obviously, that's significant. The role of Bruce Orr, who was one of the top Justice Department officials, and his wife is working for Fusion GPS. And basically what happened is there was a direct pipeline from the Clinton campaign to the upper echelons of the Justice Department and FBI through Bruce Orr, because Hillary is funding Fusion, right. And then Fusion is sending all their negative fake research on Trump right to the Obama Justice Department. You know, I mean, that's really, really problematic.
It's problematic, but we knew this was a problem a year ago. So here's the question, Congressman. Who's going to investigate and prosecute? Who's going to bring on a grand jury, issue subpoenas, do everything they didn't do in the Hillary Clinton email case? Who? Rod Rosenstein? No, he's close to Comey. He's close to Mueller. In fact, Rod Rosenstein was the guy who walked Mueller over to be interviewed for FBI director, and when the president didn't hire him, the next day Rosenstein appoints him to be special counsel. If that isn't vengeance, I don't know what is.
Well, and Rosenstein signed one of the FISA extensions, so he would be conflicted out of doing it. There's going to be a strong push in the Congress, the strongest we've had yet, for a special counsel to look into the FISA abuse and related matters. I think it's got to be someone who's not a part of the swamp, someone from outside Washington.
Who's going to do it?
Well, you're going to have to get Jeff Sessions to make the appointment. And,
do you think that's going to happen? You and I figured this out 6 months ago. He's in the middle of it, and he can't figure out that his job as a chief prosecutor in the United States is to start looking into this and stop with this namby-pamby stuff?
Well, here's the difference, though, Judge. 6 months ago, you didn't have Bruce Orr demoted. You didn't have Rybicki on his way out. You didn't have McCabe forced to resign. You didn't have James Baker reassigned. You didn't have any of that. So digging in has led to all this. People are dropping like flies at the Justice Department and FBI. Sessions has to notice that.
Yeah. But you and I both know that that's like changing a parking space. They need to be made criminally responsible. Anyway, Congressman DeSantis, I want to thank you. You started all this, and I give you a lot of credit. I really do.
Thanks, Judge.
Good to talk to you. All right. We just heard from the president on Twitter about an hour ago, and now we're joined live by one of his top spokespersons, White House Press Secretary Hogan Gidley. All right. Good evening, Hogan. I have one question to ask you. The president tweeted today that he was totally vindicated as a result of this FISA memo. Does this mean that he's calling on Robert Mueller to end the investigation?
I wouldn't say he's calling on Robert Mueller to end the investigation, but what I can say is the president has been clear that this memo has raised some serious concerns about the integrity of the decisions made at the highest levels of the FBI and the DOJ when they can take the most intrusive surveillance mechanisms and methods and use them on American citizens based on nothing but a campaign document funded and paid for by Hillary Clinton. That should be alarming to all Americans.
It's not just alarming; it's critical because it is it is misleading the court. These people swear. I used to sign warrants all the time. I mean, not a warrant at this level of FISA court, but you get that affiant to come before you, and he has to swear that what he's telling you is the truth. He has to satisfy several prongs. None of that was done here.
Right, and it was a document that obviously was omitted in the FISA warrant process. They did not tell this to the judge. Forget the fact that it was from the Clintons in the first place. I mean, obviously this thing was full of inaccuracies, but they didn't even tell the judge that's where they got the information from. That is a clear violation, and obviously this memo goes to expose that process, and I think all Americans are deeply concerned at this moment.
Well, you know, with the FISA application and what we found out, look, everybody's talking about this. I want to know, who is the lawyer who accompanied the FBI agent to go before the FISA court, okay? Whether it's Baker, Comey, McCabe, Rosenstein, all those guys, whoever that judge was, he needs to do what he or she needs to do whatever they have to do to get them on the red carpet, because they made a misrepresentation to the court, the highest, most secret court in the United States besides the Supreme Court. That judge is the person I'm waiting to hear from, because they either took him or they lied to him. Well, either way, it's bad.
You just mentioned it could quite possibly be the tip of the iceberg, and I don't disagree with that. But it's obvious now that the Congress is the investigative body here. This originated from Congress, this memo, and they've got their work cut out for them, because obviously they're facing obstruction at every turn as they try to move through this process. But they're the ones that have this, they originated this memo. They're the ones that are going to have to get to the bottom of this. But it's very clear this is opening up quite a big can of worms, if you will, in this town. All
right, what about Rod Rosenstein? You know, I saw the president's reaction when he was asked about him. Rod Rosenstein is still there. Does he have the confidence of the president?
Look, I serve at the pleasure of the president, as does Rod Rosenstein. If the president is displeased with you, believe me, you'll know it and you won't be working there. But I will say this, there are no conversations or considerations for firing Rod Rosenstein at the White House.
Oh, boy. Hogan Gidley, thanks so much for being with us this evening.
Thanks so much, Judge.
All right. And here with more insight into the memo and what's up, former Trump campaign manager David Bossie. All right, David, are you as fired up as I am?
Oh, I am, Judge. This is exactly what the president was talking about.
Yeah.
It was a rigged election back then, and that's what the president knew then, and that's what we have found out to be a fact today.
You know, David, what's amazing is when the president first came out and he said, you know, that they were wiretapping at Trump Tower and all that other stuff, everybody mocked him. They ridiculed him. They made fun of him. Obama comes out and he's so condescending and so insulted. It's true.
Yeah, it was 100% true. It's an outrage that what the American people are just finding out, and what they're learning is that the FBI used a dirty dossier that has now been completely discredited to go to the FISA court, to get a FISA judge to issue this wiretap. It is an outrage. It should bother all Americans. And I'll be honest with you, I can't understand why the New York Times, Washington Post, and others are so troubled with us wanting to press the federal government for the answers of why they were doing this. It is so dirty. It is so corrupt. And Judge,
sad.
You know this. You understand this better than most, because the men and women of the FBI, America's premier law enforcement agency, doesn't deserve this. They are made up, that organization's made up of tremendous people who do a great job making America and Americans safe.
You don't even have to say that, David. You know, everybody's saying the FBI is great, the DOJ. We all know that. It's these people who infected it at the top. And
that's right.
I'll bet you get calls like I get calls, all right, from FBI agents who are disgusted. Right. They are angry. You know, this thing should have been handled in a field office. Instead, it's handled at the upper echelon by a cabal on the 7th floor at the FBI. They're all pals.
And a few bad apples. A few bad apples have besmirched this organization, and that's really what troubles me, is that we need to honor and hold them up, and we need to do a good job job of cleaning this out so that we can get on with the business of what the FBI is supposed to be doing.
All right, let me ask you, David, some of the stuff that they've been saying about the memo that, is like Chicken Little. If this memo is released, the sky is going to fall. All right, so we have grave concerns. This is from the FBI about material omissions of fact that impact the memo's accuracy. And Nancy Pelosi says Donald Trump has surrendered his constitutional responsibility as commander-in-chief by releasing the unredacted memo. It undermines our national security and basically is a bouquet to his friend Putin. What are these people talking about?
Yeah, she also said the tax cut was going to be Armageddon. They hate this president more than they love America. That is the fundamental problem with the Democrat Party today. They see hatred through their eyes. That's all they see.
I've never seen anything like it, David.
It is remarkable to me, and they do this every day. They say the sky is falling, and it doesn't. And the American people are catching on to it, and they're going to continue because they can't help themselves. Just look at what the president did at the State of the Union. He made them look like the buffoons that they are.
Yes, absolutely. David Bossie, so good to have you on tonight.
Thanks, Judge.
What a night on Justice tonight. Mike Huckabee, Katrina Pearson still coming up, but next, you haven't heard all the takes on the Nunes memo until you hear Ann Coulter's. Ann is on deck and standing by live. Don't change that channel. Don't touch the remote. Don't go anywhere.